The two of you are sitting in a waiting room at Uppsala's mental asylum, waiting to speak with an elderly woman named Linnea Elphaclint. Alvon, you have met Linnea before. In fact, you have been called for to administer last rites to her 3 separate times, but she has always recovered, no matter how sure the asylum staff were that she was at death's door. They say she is too stubborn to die. She has always seemed a little scattered, but the last time that you saw her, she seemed more lucid and asked that you would return to visit her, bringing anyone else you knew and trusted that has the sight.
Father, I'm still kind of struggling to completely understand why it is that I'm here.
You are somebody I trust, and she requested I bring all that I trust.
Well, I mightily appreciate that, sir. But I'm not too fond of, hospitals or old folks' homes or... She just too damn stubborn to die. How many times have you done this?
I believe 3 now.
Persistent or consistent?
That is a great question.
I'm not really in love with their decor. Back in the States, everything's like Battleship Gray. Depressing, you know? Like a hospital should be.
Too nice for Dixon.
You know, you don't want to stay there. You go in and you get depressed, and so you want to leave. I don't always understand these Swedes. No offense to you.
After a little while, a doctor does come in and lead the two of you to a room. And it is a small room. It's not particularly elaborately furnished, but in the bed is a elderly lady who is looking very determined, perhaps. And she looks up to see the two of you enter, and she looks mainly at Alvon and says, "So, you did come back."
You requested I to return, did you not?
Yes, I requested it. I request a lot of things. Most of my requests go unheeded, so why would this one not? But I see you have brought one person. One? The only one you trust?
I do not trust many.
I suppose the society began with two. Perhaps it shall begin again with two. It would be poetic if you asked some. I do not enjoy poetry.
Aggression being the better part of valor, Vixen's going to stay quiet.
And she's regarding you, having looked more at Alvon as the two of you entered, as she's met him before. She is now looking at Dixon with a sort of appraising air. You're not sure what her impression is of you, but you definitely get the sense that she is forming one.
He's wearing a suit with a waistcoat and both a regular coat and a long coat against the weather. He's holding his hat, a type of fedora, possibly, with both of his hands on the rim. He has a revolver, which is not visible. His hair is neat. His mustache is neat.
She stares at you for a while, and then she furrows her brow and says, You want to understand, yes? Yes, and you? And she turns back to Alvon. You want to banish, yes, yes, just like Mats and Tina. This could work. Must work. I suppose you will have to do. You, too. Thursday's children, yes?
Dixon
Alvon will nod.
looks to the father for guidance in this matter.
He will clear his throat and glance at you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. I suppose it's too much to ask that you have heard of the Society or the Order of Artemis or the Society for Studies of the Invisibles and Protections of Mankind?
I have only known one Artemis, ma'am, and he was somewhat foul.
She looks at you in some confusion. You, too, know that there are things that most people do not see. Some wish to understand them, some wish to eradicate them. There were both kinds of people in the society when it was founded. That was, 200 years ago, and no, I was not there. I am not that old. One of the founders leaned more towards understanding, while the other wished to banish. They mainly dedicated themselves to studying and understanding the creatures that are known as Vaesen. You know of what I speak.
Yes, ma'am.
I myself was a later recruit after, well, and she stops and sort of looks down at her hands, which are folded on the blankets of the bed, and you notice that they are trembling slightly. And she resumes without really elaborating on whatever she was referring to and says, the society was almost gone when I was recruited, and it is now gone again, but something has changed. Something is wrong, and it is time for someone to fix it. And the benefit of being old is that it isn't going to be me. And she looks at the two of you.
I do not mean to pry, but what was it that caused your society to fall?
She looks almost taken aback that you have asked, and then recovers, and with a air of perhaps sharpness, will ask, which time?
During your time, like if we don't want it to history to repeat itself, like.
When I was recruited, there were only 3 actual members remaining. The rest were dead. They wished to rebuild and were able to bring some of us in. Then the 3 of them vanished, and all of the new recruits either died, went mad, or left to save their own lives. Well, I'm sure you know I didn't die, but I will leave it up to your judgment which of the other 2 options I took.
Well, I appreciate your candor, ma'am.
I have no interest in being involved in any rebuilding of the society or any of its activities. I only know that it must be done, and I have this. And she turns to her bedside table and opens a drawer, and from it she removes a brass key and holds it out to whichever of you would like to take it.
I guess I will take the key.
Okay, then she will hand it to the priest. You. And she looks at you as you take it. You have lived here longer than. And she looks at Dixon. What, an American? You know of Uppsala's abandoned castle, perhaps? It is rather large and hard to miss.
It is quite grand.
This will open that. That was our headquarters. It is mine no longer. I wash my hands of it in giving you the key.
Vaughn will give a slight nod. I appreciate that you trust me with this.
What you will do with it, I have no idea. Perhaps I shall die soon, perhaps not, but either way, I want nothing to do with it.
I believe you have more fight. You are quite the stubborn lady.
That's the polite way of putting it. I'm sure some of the nurses here have put it in less delicate terms. There were, what is the best term? Splinter groups, I suppose. If you reform our long gone grand society, I cannot say that you would be the only such group, I suppose. There were those that split off from the original society over various disagreements. Most died off soon enough, but there are some that were slightly more tenacious. I do not know for certain.
How accommodating will those groups be to newcomers in their playground?
Well, you see, it rather depends. Anyone who split off did so for, well, differences of opinion. There were some that followed a sea captain who fell in love with the Vaesen, so they say. As far as I heard, that group rather died out. There were others who went the other way entirely and thought the creatures the spawn of Satan, dedicated themselves to eradication rather than study. As far as I heard, some of them may still exist. I cannot give you much. This key opens the castle. There you will find, well, I do not know exactly what you will find. I would suspect there are books. You could learn more. They were rather a pretentious bunch, I always thought, kept their own history. Rather dedicated to it.
Worth looking into.
Quite. Well, I have nothing more for you.
Vaughn will bow slightly. May the Lord be with you.
I should hope so, after all the times you've been and blessed me in my dying moments.
It appears he is.
Perhaps.
I suppose go to the castle.
You are headed to Castle Gillenkreutz. The Society's abandoned headquarters is a huge but poorly maintained castle on a hill by the Firus River. Overgrown shrubs and greenery are somewhat contained by a wrought iron fence, and gargoyles and griffin statues covered in dirt and moss seem to watch your approach. The castle is 3 stories high, and there are numerous outbuildings. And you stand there before a large set of doors.
One thing does trouble me.
And what might that be?
Well, I'm well aware that you both well versed and ordained. You have within your power the power of the church, within those things that you are required to do. This does not fall under that jurisdiction. How exactly are we to follow and do those elements that she so wished the society to continue to do? I am concerned that we don't have any sort of real authority in the legal sense, and the spiritual guardianship that you do so possess, sir, will only go just so far in a court of law.
Well, that seems like a path we will cross when we reach it.
Right, okay. Burn that bridge before we cross it. I get it, right.
Before. All right. The key fits perfectly, and the doors, you get the sense, have not opened in some time. It is hard to pull them open. Inside, you find that many of the doors have been locked or are barricaded. The rooms you can access are full of cobwebs, mouse nests, and detritus. One of the rooms you find is a large library, and while some books have been damaged, many have survived the castle's fall into ruin.
I would like to explore the library.
You are able to find a lot of books. So there's a whole section that seems to have history of the society itself. There are books and books that sort of list various information that they were able to collect on different types of Vaesen. Basically, you found a lot of information, far too much for you to just consume all of, but you do think that if you were looking for something particular and were willing to take the time to go through it, you would be able to find out things. So if you're interested in researching the society's history, there's anything specific you're looking for, and you want to take some time, you can do so. There are also rooms that are accessible that you could stay in, it would take a little bit of cleaning, but it's not like the whole thing's completely unlivable. If you wish to move here, which you will at some point because this is your new headquarters, you can do so.
Dixon calls from somewhere. I think you should fire the cleaners.
There are none.
Well,
What?
I'm impressed that you've stayed right on top of that. That's a good job, sir.
Let me know when you're ready and I'll tell you what happens next.
He will walk in and he's holding a large tin of rolled cigarettes. I found this in one of the other rooms. They seem to be Rhoda Laquette. Does that sound like a lady cigarette to you?
He will look up from a book and then just look down back at the book.
That's what I was thinking. And he walks back out.
The next day, you actually receive your first visitor after having assumed ownership of Castle Gillenkreuz.
And Dixon has rolled up his shirt. He's still wearing his waistcoat. The other stuff, his main coat, and that he's taken off. He is smoking one of the cigarettes. He's still unsure if it is good for his manhood or not. He is sweeping away the dust with a large bristled broom. He goes over and he opens the door and just, please step back for one moment as he brushes a bunch of dust and dirt and cobwebs and mice and any other things he could.
Nice.
Once he's done that, he'll put the broom next to the door. Well, howdy there. How can I help you?
Standing before you is an older man. He has brought multiple bags with him and carries with him a broom and a large bucket. And he looks at the broom you were holding with some distress and says, "No, no, no, sir. Please do not trouble yourself with such matters. That is why I am here."
And you are, sir?
My name is Elgort Frisk. My family has served at Castle Gillenkreuz for Well, hundreds of years, and so the minute I heard that new residents had arrived, I, of course, came to resume my position as steward.
Padre,
Avon will emerge from one of the windows.
there's a guy here called Stuart that wants to talk to you about cleaning. I think he said he was pretty old, but I might not have heard that fully right.
I will be down in a minute.
And he will step out of the way. Make yourself at home. We've only just arrived. We're trying to make it shipshape, but it's not the cleanest.
Yes, sir, that is why I am here. Then you see a older man with sort of long, neatly groomed hair, and he's wearing nice enough clothes, not very fancy, but he's not just some sort of gruffy vagabond who's walked in out of nowhere and declared himself to be your new steward. And he has set down some bags that he brought with him and is now sweeping your floor.
And who might you be?
I, sir, am Elgot Frisk. I am the steward of Castle Gillenkreutz.
I am Avon Ludwig.
A pleasure, sir.
I assume you wish to retake the title.
He looks slightly taken aback. Well, sir, that is not in question. My family have served at this castle for generations. I shall resume my post.
That is very generous of you.
So, Elgot Frisk is going to begin from this point onwards, basically cleaning and trying to make your space more livable. Anything you have access to, he is going to maintain.
Well, he's getting an area of the castle for himself, possibly a room to sleep in, and maybe just a bit of
You can find your
personal
own room.
space.
And is Alvon still kind of reading books in the library?
Yep, I would like to research the history of the order.
Okay, we're researching the society. What kind of stuff are you looking for?
Just like a general history,
All right.
a timeline of events.
So you're able to find out that 200 years ago, the society was formed, but it was at the time called the Order of Artemis. It was founded by two individuals that had the site and had had their own sort of experiences with the unexplainable things and decided that they needed to be studied more. They started their own kind of organization that was in Copenhagen, which is not where you are, but over time, it actually grew into a larger organization and branches were opened in different areas, including one in the town of Uppsala, where you are right now. There were some disagreements within this group. Some people wanted more to focus on understanding Vaesen. Some wanted to sort of more completely eradicate them. But as a whole, they were able to mostly agree that studying was a good way to go about it, because I guess that would help both groups there. Various events took place, different leaders kind of came and went. There was one who was rather controversial. There were rumors that he maybe didn't even have the site at all, but was lying about it in order to kind of take power. Eventually, most members of the society were killed in a fire that they actually set in an effort to deal with some giants that were attacking. Only 3 members survived, and they have all since mysteriously vanished. They had recruited some new recruits before that, but they all either died, went mad, or gave up the whole idea. And the castle has sat empty since then. You find some mention in a couple places of a group called the Rosenbergers. It seems as though they are one of the groups that sort of split off of the main society, and it seems as though relations between the society and the Rosenbergers have been a little bit contentious. And in your researching, you find a few journals from former society members, and they mention things such as that somewhere in this castle, you've not explored the whole thing, there are doors you cannot open yet, but you learn that there should be, in various places, somewhere a chapel, a laboratory, a variety of different sort of things that would be useful if you can find them and fix them. But you don't know where they are now. And as the two of you are sort of settling in, just as you start to feel like you are settling into your new headquarters, a letter arrives. Algot Frisk will have recovered this letter from wherever it was left. He will bring Dixon a letter. You note that it is sealed in red wax, and the seal says Clint. It contains a handwritten flyer on which someone has also scrawled a short note.
He will take the letter, and not being able to help himself, being a private investigator, he will examine the quality of the paper, of the envelope. Does it seem cheap, or does it seem a more thicker quality?
You would say it is an envelope of middling quality, perhaps. It is not the cheapest available option, but it is also not an envelope of a wealthy person. It is just standard envelope.
He will then tear open the wax seal and take it out. He will shake the paper, and he will read it as he walks into the library. He will be reading it as he hands the Padre the envelope. Middle class, I think. Not rich, not poor. Wax seal. It does seem to be a flyer. Handwritten, though. That's unusual, isn't it? And there is a note, which does not appear to have been part of the flyer itself. Meet me tonight at the Wit Cat Inn. Olos. And he hands the letter to the good Padre.
You will look over it. Interesting.
I understand the principle of clockwork, but how does that play into the play in this case?
Well, I suppose the only way to find out is to go, isn't it?
Do you think that this is a level of hyperbole? Not for the faint of heart and, ooh, ghosts and goblins and all that kind of malarkey. Now, I'm assuming the meet me tonight at the Witch Cat Inn was a direct request for a meeting and not just part of advertising.
I believe we should meet them, wherever they are.
Before you go off to your meeting, you actually have a chance now to search for clues. Now, search for clues not in the sense of this is a crime scene, but you do, from the start of the game, have access to a library. If you would like to learn more about anything that you have basically heard of so far, you brought up what is Shadow Theater. That is a thing you can learn. Things you can learn about other things mentioned. The Witch Cat Inn was one. Anyone who is interested in learning more can make a learning test. So that will be...
And he's looking up shadow play.
It appears our friend Olas is a private detective. He specializes in the occult.
Well, that is interesting. There's also Oscar Hajort. He's on the flyer you have there. He was a former society man. Well, he still couldn't be kicking around now, could he?
I don't believe so. Speaking of the society, the Witch Cat Inn used to be a meeting spot of members of the society. The former innkeep used to be a member, actually.
Well, it seems that word travels fast of our arrival in this here establishment, namely the castle.
And if you don't have anything you would prefer to say as an advantage, I'm going to say that since you've both done some research, you could get an advantage related to sort of learning about the society's past or anything like that that you could use to get a +2 dice later on in the adventure.
Sounds good.
Your wonderful steward, Algot Frisk, will arrange for a carriage. You do not currently have your own stables or anything, but hey, you just moved in. So he will arrange transportation for you. And a storm is raging as you make your way to the Witch Cat Inn. Lightning streaks across the sky, and more than once, your coachman has to fight to keep the frightened horses under control. Rain and hail beat against the coach roof, and the wind howls and seems determined to blow you off course. After almost 4 hours, you finally arrive at the inn, a large wooden building with a stable beside it. The inn, while obviously still in use, seems to be falling apart. There are holes in the thatched roof and places where you can see through the walls. A man is standing under an outcrop of the stable roof, smoking.
So, how do you want to handle this?
I believe we're just going to walk up to them.
And he seems to have been watching your arrival, and as you walk up to him, he sort of flicks the butt of the cigarette he was smoking down to the ground. He's a middle-aged man. He has glasses. He's very sort of fastidiously groomed. He's a very neat mustache, and he's wearing fairly nice clothing. And he bows to you with a smile as you approach and says, "Ah, I assume you are the ones who received my letter."
Well, that depends, sir. If you did send it to an abandoned castle, which has more recently not become abandoned, then with much abandon, you are correct.
Well, you see, I was curious. I had heard that, well, Castle Gillenkreuz had inhabitants again. I assume a certain stubborn lady had some hand in that. But if you have taken ownership, then I assume you will be able to assist me in this.
We may or may not be able to do so. It would be beneficial to us and to you to explain upon what it is that you require.
He chuckles slightly and he says, "Well, you saw the flyer. You must have. My request was written on it. This flyer has been spread throughout the town of Uppsala. Not too odd in and of itself, I suppose. But travelers passing through have reported odd dreams. I would not put too much stock into that, were it not for the fact that a while ago I myself visited the inn, and something is here. Something powerful. Something that I cannot deal with on my own. And so I called for help, and here you are."
Comb among the Lakota and the like, they put a lot of belief in dreams. Now, this powerful thing that you think is in the inn,
Yes.
what makes you think that it is in the inn?
I felt its presence
Ah,
when I stayed here.
but nothing more. You just felt its presence.
Is more required.
Well, that depends. Was it malevolent? Help me out, Padre. There's a word there I'm trying to find.
Malevolent?
That's the one. My thank you, sir.
Do you think I would have called in assistance for some sort of benevolent entity? Not that there is such a thing.
Well, again, that does so depend. It could be that we are dealing with something of a unusual nature, and in such cases you could have required help regardless of what its true intentions were.
You obfuscate the issue. Any supernatural being is by virtue malevolent.
So you're one of the banishment crowd.
I'm unsure of what you mean. I have my own reasons for wishing to see these creatures gone. Will you assist me or no?
Well, I have my own reasons for going into an inn, and right now that involves a drink, and he walks in.
Although the roof is leaking and various pots and pans lie on the floor to catch the rain as it falls through. The dining room of the inn is warm and lively. A fire crackles cheerfully, and the smell of stew and warm bread fills the air. A short, stout man in his 40s stands behind the bar, calling orders back into the kitchen where a cook is bustling about. Two people are attending to the guests, a tall and gaunt young man, and a plump young woman with a frightened demeanor who bears a resemblance to the man behind the bar. You can see three guests sitting at various tables: a priest, a red faced man in farmer's clothes, and a woman who is constantly glancing around the room.
Dixon will find a place which is not dripping with water and sit down
Just sitting at a table?
for now.
Okay. And perhaps a few minutes after you seat yourself, a girl, could be late teens. You think she's the one who looks a little bit frightened. She walks over to you and, without actually looking you in the face, says, "Can we get you anything, sir?"
Do you have a cup of joe? Coffee, miss, coffee.
Coffee? Yes.
Hope you don't mind me prying, but you seem a little nervous. Is there any reason for you to be nervous, apart from getting splashed by the water from the roof?
No, sir. Coffee? Anything else?
No, I'm quite fine. I don't know if the good padre here will require refreshments.
And she looks in the priest's direction, again, not looking him in the eye, but waiting to see if he requests anything.
A glass of wine, if you have it.
Yes. And she hurries off to retrieve both these things.
That seems a little suspicious, don't you think? Does not strike you as a little bit odd?
Well, yes, but everybody is going through their own things.
Right.
It is best not to jump to conclusions.
And after a few moments, she returns and she'll place a cup of hot coffee in front of Dixon and a glass of wine in front of Alvon.
Thank you, miss.
And she sort of nods her head and hurries back off. And Olaus has come in from the rain, and he will join you at your table. So what approach are you going to take here?
This is our imperious leader. And he motions to the priest. He's well versed in all sorts of different tacks, and he's remarkably clever. I'm sure he's formulating a plan as we speak.
I do not know, to be entirely honest. I believe you might be our most experienced with this type of thing.
Well, two guests here are more regular, from what I understand. They may know more. The woman there, I've never seen her. Any of the staff could perhaps fill you in as well?
Well, the
Innkeeper, his daughter, the other attendant.
little miss there, somewhat nervous and also capable as a serving girl, but was a little bit lack of forthcoming of information.
That's the daughter of the owner.
Well, she's mighty suspicious at the moment.
And the GM refrains from saying what, she's suspicious of you?
She could be. We are newcomers.
Uh.
Something has got her a bit riled up.
Look, talk to anyone you want to. If I had the answers, I wouldn't have called you in.
Well, I'm assuming you have already spoken to these people, have you not? You are an investigator, are you not?
I have spoken to them, however, it is different. I have stayed here before. I am coming at this all with a biased perspective, I suppose. You are outside of all of that. I would like to know what you think.
I see. Dixon's going to observe them for the moment, because he's not quite sure. Well, hey there, how you doing? There's a lot of weird stuff going on. Do you want to tell me about it?
Who are you observing?
Anyone who we can. The woman who was there.
She looks very nervous, but in a different way than the girl who brought you your drinks seems nervous, but not agitated. like the woman who is sitting at one of the tables. If you would like to make me a roll. Okay.
Success. Well, he's sort of watching the guests. That's going to be his main
So
thing.
there's three of them. There's the woman. There's a priest, and he's just eating a meal. He's kind of calmly looking around. He's not doing a whole lot. He looks a little pale, but he doesn't seem alarmed. He honestly seems like he could be a bit sickly, perhaps. And there is a man who is clearly drinking a lot. His face is red. He's very exuberant. Anyone talking to him, he's sort of touching them on the shoulder, and he's just very loud and boisterous. And he is wearing kind of farmer's clothes. And if you're observing him talking, you get the sense he knows the owner very well.
Do you think the priest is real?
Are you talking about me or?
No, not you. I know. I know.
I'm sorry, I'm pretty real. Would I be able to tell just by his demeanor?
You get the sense based on what he's wearing, everything about him. Yep, he's a real priest, and you also know there to be a church not that far away, so he could be connected to that.
Well, I have no reason to doubt his authenticity.
Does this poor roof seem odd to you at all? That they would not have thatched it up? That they have? I mean, I don't know how many inns there are in this here neck of the wood, but I would have thought they would not have let it get like this, or that they would have had the resources from the customers to have been able to have cleared this up.
Yeah, such is certainly strange that he just left it like that.
Can't be good for business. And the madam over there, she's got herself into a bit of a problem.
What do you mean by that?
The sunken eyes, the redness, the stains on the edge of her mouth and on her fingers. She likes the dens, if you take my drift, sir.
That is unfortunate.
And Olaus is just sort of watching you take in the surroundings and make your various deductions with a bit of a small smile.
I don't feel anything. Does this haunt of yours doesn't reside here, then?
Oh, it does.
Well, then why don't we feel it now?
Well, I don't either. You have to wait. For nightfall. It isn't dark out yet.
No, but if it was here, would we not already feel it?
I do not claim to be an expert, sir. I have never felt anything unusual until darkness falls.
He will go to the priest.
And are you just standing at his table? Are you sitting down at his table? What are you...
He will pull up a chair.
He looks up at you. He's been reading while eating his meal, and he has a cup of tea. And he doesn't seem upset that you've joined him. He just sort of looks at you calmly.
What's he reading?
He's reading a theological essay.
I have been having an interesting conversation with my friend, and he motions to the priest. There has been some odd comments and discussions in the region lately of an increase of things that we would say back home go bump in the night. Some are putting it down to ghosts and ghoulies, and others to a more theological cause. I am interested in your thoughts, sir, if you're willing to share them.
My thoughts are I certainly wouldn't speak of any such things within earshot of our esteemed host. And he looks at the innkeeper standing behind the bar.
Oh? Why is that, sir?
Sammy! Well, he hates any mention of two things, I suppose, as odd as it may sound. Anything occult, which I suppose is fair, or anything to do with the arts.
Like the shadow play that has been touring the region. That would not be to his liking.
There is no play that has been touring the region.
Oh, we saw a flyer only the other day.
Yes, a strange flyer has been going around, certainly, but there is no play touring.
Oh, what would be the purpose of a flyer advertising a play from the shadows that is nothing but a shadow? That seems an awful lot of work for absolutely no gain.
I could not tell you. The flyer states that there will be a performance at this inn, and I can only tell you that the proprietor would certainly stand for no such thing.
Is that why the little miss is on edge?
Sophia has been rather quiet ever since her mother left.
Oh, I am sorry to hear that. And I take it you meant she left. She has not departed.
Well, both. He left first, but then a few months ago, Sammy received word that she had passed.
That is unfortunate. Must be difficult on the little one.
She has been more withdrawn. I only know so much about the family, and he gestures to the rather loud and talkative man at another table. Jonathan, there is the best friend of the proprietor. He could tell you more.
The carrying of his voice, I am sure he could tell the entire region more.
Yes, well, I suppose we can be thankful that he is only enthusiastic when he has a bit too much to drink.
I completely understand. The quality of the inn itself does not seem to be too much on the shoddy side. I must admit, I am surprised to see the rain on the inside of the dwelling.
He frowns and he says, "It is very odd. Since the beginning of this year, no matter how hard Sammy works to maintain the inn, and he does work hard to maintain it. This inn is everything to him, really, his family legacy. He sees running it as a duty. And no matter how hard he works to maintain it, it has been deteriorating. Some are calling it a curse. I could not hazard a guess. It is odd."
Certainly does sound unusual. I will grant you that. Thank you for your time, sir.
He nods, and we'll go back to his book.
I will go back to the priest.
The other priest. Okay.
Well, we have a girl with a problem, and Jonathan there is Sammy's best friend, but he is somewhat boisterous when he's had a little to drink. I don't know how you would like to handle this, sir.
This priest does not know.
You shouldn't have been drinking so much wine.
It's just like 5 empty glasses in front of him when you return.
The priest would like to go to the drunkard or the.
And he does not seem at all surprised, upset, or anything to suddenly have someone else at his table. He is having a great time as far as you can tell. Ew. Ew, do you want a drink? No? Ah,
No, thank you, sir.
that's fine. It's fine. More for me. What can I do for you, good sir?
We just came into town and we would like to know a little bit about it and this fine establishment.
This establishment, the Witch Cat. Yes, it's the best establishment in the city, town. Yeah. Sammy, he's my best friend. Good man. Has his faults, but he's a good man. Yes. What did you want to know?
Anything you're willing to tell? I'm here to get stories.
Stories.
Always up for a good tale. Talk of the town.
Well, I mean, there's rumors, but rumors are rumors, and I shouldn't say. I shouldn't say too loud. Anyway, but he does the thing when people who are drunk are trying to whisper, but maybe not doing a great job of it. He isn't being as loud, so it is possible, based on the other sounds going around, that the innkeeper may not be hearing him, but he's certainly not maybe as quiet as he thinks he's being. And he says, "Well, I mean, the main story going around is about, well, Sammy's wife. She she left him. But, well, he said she ran off, and she did. She did run off, but she ran off because, well, a good man. He's a good man. He did beat her, though. But that was because of the. Well, Nora, she always was interested in ghosts and things, and art. Yes. She was an artist. She was. They had a fight about some performers, and he hit her, and she left, and then she died, and well, ever since then, her room's locked up, and he won't let anyone in. But I suppose that's really the only kind of rumor. I mean, people talk about a ghost. Nora, she used to say there was a ghost before she left, before she died. She said there was a ghost. Sammy said no, no such thing as a ghost. But and then the people that stay here, they say they have dreams. I don't really ever stay here overnight. You know, I just have a meal and well, that's all. That's all I can think of.
I appreciate it. You will set a
Hmm.
coin down.
He will nod and take it and go back to very happily drinking some beer.
The priest will return.
Please go on, sir.
Apparently she left because he beat her. What a swell guy. And supposedly she was also a avid believer of the supernatural.
So are you thinking that there was a ghost here before? Or after?
I think it could go either way, but right now I'm leaning towards before.
Does that then mean that on some level the apparition was aware of her plight and is now unhappy with the state of affairs that it all led into and is punishing Sammy for his actions and choices?
Possibly because the rumor persisted before her disappearance.
He will go over to the woman. He will sit down.
And she glares at you with a very suspicious look.
Like someone that has bad dreams.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It has a unmistakable scent. I had to spend some time in the Orient.
Yes, yes, goodbye. She stands up and leaves. Not like the leaving the inn. She's gone up some stairs. You assume two rooms. She is very convinced police are after her and will withdraw if she thinks anyone's onto her. So, yep. So she's gone. It's okay. That doesn't affect you. I promise.
No, it was a possibility. Get his coffee cup and go back over to Sammy.
Okay, who's standing behind the bar, and he looks very serious. He's got these sort of piercing eyes, and he has just been sort of regarding everything that happens in the bar. Not necessarily like he's upset, but he's just very kind of stoic, I suppose. And he looks at you. A refill?
It is not too much trouble, sir.
No trouble. And he'll take your cup and refill it.
Is this a common problem in the region? The rain and the...
He grimaces a little and says, "I'm working on it."
Oh, I'm not making any judgment on the quality of your work, sir. I'm not from around here. It was more curiosity of if it's an ailment that affects buildings and structures in this region.
It only began at the beginning of this year. I have heard of no one else dealing with it. I am working on it.
Interesting. Oh, I'm sure it's annoying.
Yes.
Particularly localized problem.
He nods with sort of a. He's not frustrated. You are a guest that is in, but just sort of a. Yep. I know. Been doing this for a while now.
Is the leaky roof what has your daughter so jumpy?
And he looks at you with sort of a confused look and says, Sophia is fine.
Well, that's not completely true, sir. She's not met the eyes of a single patron.
She's always been a bit shy. She is fine.
Uh-huh. Kids that when they hit that age, they're rambunctious and they're ready to climb the steeples and see the world from the highest point. What's made her so shy? I mean, in taverns and inns are a place where there's always new people, new stories, new tales, new places, new things. It never stays the same for long. That usually creates a maelstrom and a kaleidoscope of ideas that don't often play into the shyness.
Look, sir, you seem to be complaining that my daughter is not causing enough trouble. She is polite. She does her job. I don't know what more you want.
I'm used to them causing trouble.
He sort of shakes his head. Is there anything else I can help you with? Do you need a room for the night?
We might. I'm here with the good father.
He nods.
Seems to be a popular establishment with the clergy.
And is that why you are here? Your friend there knows Father Niels, perhaps? And
I'm sure that they might well know each other in passing. They are in a similar trade, as it were.
so a recommendation from him to visit the witch cat?
Could well have been.
He sort of nods.
And he looks at the daughter. Another localized problem. Well, thank you, sir. This is decent coffee, sir. Not as strong as back home. And then he will sit down.
I am afraid I am not an average drinker of that.
Never too late to start. There's a lot of localized problems in this place.
Perhaps the spirit?
It is unfortunate, but I feel that some of these problems go deeper and longer than that spirit. And whatever we will do on that regard will not actually fix what's wrong with this family. There is, however, no play, no shadow play or otherwise. I asked the priest, and he said that there is many of these flyers being handed around, but there has not been any actual troop. But I had a feeling, possibly from being close to you, from God, that we haven't asked any of the actual staff about the shadow play that was meant to happen in this inn. I have annoyed, as was my intention, the proprietor of this establishment. You may wish to speak to the staff.
I am very grateful of that.
Well, there are times I will, let us say, play upon the foreign idea of my countrymen. It sometimes works in our advantage.
So I guess we were talking to the staff to see if there is a shadow play.
We have two waiters, as in a waiter and a waitress. That's a daughter. I don't know about him.
They are actually both engaged in conversation at the moment with various guests. The cook, you would have to enter the kitchen, which would you'd have to go behind the bar and then.
I have indeed seen a cook, both seen and heard, but they are in the back.
You will try to get the attention of a waiter?
The young man is talking to the priest, and he says, just a moment, sir. I am engaged, but I'll be with you shortly." And goes back to talking with the priest.
The priest will head up to the innkeeper.
All right, and he will look up at you. "And how can I help you?"
I got a letter about some shadow play.
What? What letter?
A flyer about your shadow play that was happening at your fine establishment.
I don't know what you're talking about. Do you have this flyer?
The priest will pull out the flyer.
And he will read it. And as he reads it, his face seems to darken, and you sense that he is becoming very angry. And as he comes to the end of it, he looks up, not at you, but across the room to where his daughter is engaged in conversation with a guest and says, Sophia! And she looks at him and he sort of gestures. And she very nervously heads over to you where you are standing with him, but he walks into the kitchen and she follows him there. And you can hear a hushed conversation, but it is very angry sounding on one side. And then you hear a loud crack sound. And then Sophia runs out of the kitchen and up the stairs. And Sammy, the innkeeper, returns to the bar where you are standing and says, You were misinformed. There is no play happening here.
So what were these flyers?
A mistake.
Apologies, then.
And he nods at you and begins cleaning some glasses. He seems still furious, but you are a guest, and he's not going to take that out on you, probably.
The priest will return.
To the table?
Yep. It appears his daughter was not spared.
Yes.
Apparently these flyers were a quote-unquote mistake.
I think that man is going to have to meet his comeuppance at some point.
I believe so as well.
You notice that the room seems to be gradually growing dimmer, but more so than it would with just the sun setting outside. As you look around, you notice that the fire and lamps have all gone dim and taken on a bluish hue. Your breath creates billowing clouds in the suddenly freezing air. Olaus opens his mouth as if to say something, but then closes it again. His face has gone blank, and his eyelids droop shut. He seems to have fallen asleep. As you look around the room, everyone seems to have fallen asleep, except for the innkeeper, whose frightened eyes regard the strange sight from behind the bar. And this will be a great spot to end, but before we do, I need people to make a fear test, which is going to be the fear value is 1.
I do not get feared.
You are not afraid. Wonderful. They shouldn't have done. Oh no. Uh okay. So you are going to take 1 mental condition.
Starring SPG, Ghost, and Emily as the storyteller. Music and sounds from Sirenscape.com, Epidemic Sounds, and AlchemyRPG. You can find us at critfail.com.